Hi everyone, in this video I want to show you how you can create a which character Instagram or Facebook effect using scripting, using JavaScript. There are many ways to do this. I'm just going to show you one implementation, how I did it to my randomizer filters. I'm going to show it to you straight away. So I'm going to press play. I'm going to restart. I have tap to continue instruction. Which animal? This is not a text, actually you use an image, but you can use a text as well. I'm going to tap. There's a sound. I'm going to explain this what it is later on. 3 characters, cute characters, I just explain randomly. Then I tap again, you see tap to continue. There's a sound, and 1 is chosen. And then I can restart, tap to play again. I can tap again, tap to continue appears, which animal, and can repeat the process. Then tap to continue. It's a cute sound, and I get 1. By the way, the 3 of those are actually replaced, but because it was random, I actually got 3 of them with the same type. Let's try again. Tap. All right. So let me show you how we can do this. So yeah, there are quite a few assets here, and again, explain everything. So if you learn this, you're gonna learn using this tutorial. You actually can learn do other things. This type of scripting and the way I use it, I made it allows you to create other types of effects using certain functionality that I use in this filter, but you can use it to create other things. So it's important to learn scripting because it gives you a great degree of freedom to create different kind of things that might be a bit more complicated or even kind of cumbersome when you do this in the patch editor. For me, scripting is just easier way to do things. I'm used to scripting. It's easier for me to manage the code and to follow the logic when I use scripting compared to using the patch editor. But many of the things that you can do with scripting, you can do in patch editor as well. All right, but because people ask me to do it in scripting, so that's what I'm doing it right now. So let's first take a look at the assets, what we have here. So I actually have, I created 3 textures, 3 images, import 3 images, which appear as textures here, of characters, cute characters, and I call them 1, 2, and 3. Why 1, 2, and 3? I'm going to explain a bit later on, but in general, because it's going to get a random number, I'm just going to pick the image with that number. So again, 3 characters. We can, of course, add many more, but I'm just using 3 in this example. So if I use like I had 5, I'm going to put 4 and 5 and even more. This is called which. This is just an image that shows which animal. And of course, I could have used, instead of image, use the text, the 2D text, but I use this because it's easier for me just to apply a texture than just managing another element. So I just did it because I want to explain how to do it, and I didn't want to put too many things, too many elements, and confuse you more than what it is right now. So we also have 2 materials. One that holds the which text, which animal, according to which animal, I forgot for a second. Yeah, which animal text. As you can see, it's a flat shader type with a texture that holds the which image. And then I have another that called met.bg. Met is short for material. I just use a camel casing for me for the naming convention. So met.bg background, and this is actually the background that I use behind the image. Met Randomizer, by the way, by default holds the which image, but I'm going to change it later on to show the different cute characters there. If I reset it, you can see that by default it holds the which text. All right. I also have 2 audio soundtracks. This one for the blip. You know, when you have a 1, 2, 3, and set. And the shuffle one for the shuffling. So this is. Alright, so we have 2 audio clips that are important into the So Spark Air Studio. And also created two playback controllers. One for because I need to play them, I need a playback controller if I do it from script, because I'm going to access those in the script. So the first one is called AP Shuffle, and I set it to play and loop. The reason why I want it to loop, because it's a shuffle. It will continue shuffling, do the shuffle sound until the user taps the screen. So that's why it automatically plays and loop when the project starts. But because I don't want it to be played when the project starts, only once the user click continue, I'm going to mute it first in the script, and I'm going to show it to you how it is done, and then play it when I want it to be played. And also made it for the blip. The blip by default is not playing and it's not looping, because I'm going to trigger it each time that I want it to be played. Now I also created speakers for each of those playback controllers. So SP is for speaker, shuffle, also the shuffle. You see in audio I chose AP shuffle, the playback controller, the audio playback controller, and for the blip I chose AP blip. I choose volume 100% for all of them, but you can decide which volume you want there, so just put 100. Alright, so this for the audio. In script I'm going to explain it a bit later, of course. So let's see the elements that we have here. Actually I don't need the ambient light, I'm just going to remove it. So to be clearer for you, I don't use it. If you want to use it, you can add it right now. Just want to keep the project simple. I have a face tracker, and the reason I have a face tracker is because I'm going to put all those elements relative to the face, and I want them to move when the user's face moves. So all of the elements, other elements, the speaker, it doesn't matter where you put it, but those canvas elements are important. I want them to be under the face tracker. Now I have two elements here, canvas BG, which is the background. I can hide it, you can see. Look at here, you can only see the other image. And you can see that I created a layer called BG. In a moment I'll explain to you why. And another canvas, oh, forgot, under this canvas, background canvas, I have a rectangle. Why a rectangle? Because I can't pin the canvas. I need to create a rectangle, a 2D element, and assign a material to it, and then I can have it in a different color. So that's what I did. For the rectangle, the background rectangle, I created a material called material BG, matte BG, and inside you can see the shader type is flat, and I just decided which color I want to use. Just give it kind of a bluish one, and that's it, just has a color. Going to canvas characters, here you can see this will hold the text, starting text, and the animal one. So canvas characters has underneath it rect characters, but they both canvas are set to wall space because I want them to move with the head. And this one holds a material called matte randomizer, which will accept an image. I set the default to which is this text, but it will change in scripting to show the images of those cute animals. Now I could put both rectangles under the same canvas, but the reason that I do this is because I want to have a easier control of how I move. I'm just going to stop it for a second. How I move them in the 3D space. So from position it in the 3D space, it's easier for me to have the canvas for each element, and I can use each one separately. All right. So we have those two, the speaker, and that's it. Really simple, not too many elements here, very simple. So let's just reset the project, and let's go dive to the most interesting part, the scripting. So to add a script, you just click add asset and script. I already done it, so you can see script under the scripting folder. The scripting folder is added automatically, and now what I need to do is just tap the script.js and it will open the script, so I can take a look. Now, depends on which editor you use. I use Visual Studio Code. I like this one very much, and that's the one that will be open. So that's what I use. So you can see it's under Sparky Studio Tutorials, Tutorial 11, Randomizer script, and this is actually the script. So first, let's take a quick look over the script. Again, I created myself everything. So this is the length of the script that allows this type of behavior. So this is it. Of course, I'm going to explain to you what each thing does, so you can learn. And again, things that I use here, you can use in other types of projects, so it's important to understand what they do. And you need to understand that there are many ways to do things. So I try to do something a bit more complicated with the behavior, so you can understand more things than just very, very simple scripting. But you see, it's not that complicated. It's not too complicated. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, so let's start. All right, the first thing you see here is something with a require. You see require? Const mean constant, which means const mean constant. This is all those here are variables, but because which mean those will actually hold something. It can be a value, it can be something, a reference to something, and the reason it's const means that the value that each one of those is holding can't be changed when the program is running. So it's constant. If I try to change it, it will throw an error. I mean, it won't allow me to change it. Now, require in general means that we actually require, you want to import certain libraries, which is a set of functionality functions that allows us to, it's basically code, already pre-made code, external one, which we import into our project. So instead of going and putting all the code that is developed by Spark AR for face tracking and just copy pasted it, you don't need to. We just say require face tracking, and all the functionality of face tracking will be available for us in our script. We just create a reference for it, and then we can access it using this face tracking variable. Same goes to the other ones. This is related to the scene. This is we're adding functionality related to timing functions. This is something that allows us to access things related to the patch editor. This related to animation. Now we are not using everything. I'm not using animation right now, so I can actually remove it. But usually this is kind of a base that I already copy and paste, because usually I use most of them in my project, but for this one I don't need everything. Patches I need, animation for example I don't need, audio I need, diagnostic I'm going to need, materials, textures, time I'm going to use, scene, face tracking I'm not going to use. In this script I can delete it. All right. Next one, okay, I need to explain to you right now from the beginning how it works. So when I created it, the first thing that I wanted to do is create variables that allows me to access different things in the scene. So the first thing that I did was to create something called Met Randomizer. Again, I can give it any name that I want. I can call it just Met R or anything that I want. I just call it Met Randomizer because it allows me to understand that this is related to material. It's a reference for the material that points to the material that called randomizer. And as you can see here, I use the library for materials. You see, the same here, just use the same name, and then it opens up different functionality. So here, I have a function called get that allows me to get the material, get a reference to the material, and store it in this variable. So that's what I did. Materials.get, and this name is not something I made up. Actually, I made it up, but it's important to make sure that this name is the same one used here. So as you can see, Randomizer, that's the name that I gave to this material. So in order to access this material in the assets panel, I want to access it in code, I need to use the same name, right? So Randomizer. Now, the second one is called SP for speaker shuffle. And for this, I use the scene library, see, which has something called root.find. And scene root.find means it tells Spark AI to search the scene, and the scene is this one, you see scene, start from the root and search everything, find what to find, which object, SP shuffle. So SP shuffle is actually this one, the speaker. You see, SP shuffle. So I tell it to search, starting from the root, search entire scene for something called, object called SP shuffle, this one. Now, the reason that I'm, just go to the third one, I'm going to explain why I need each one. The third one is the audio playback controller, AP blip. I call it just AP blip. And usually I use the same name as the object, but I can call it anything. It doesn't, this one, the name of the variable doesn't have to be the same name here. This one is important to be the same one used in this in the assets panel or in the scene, but this one you can give it any name you want. I just call it the same name. So AP blip, the one that does the blip, and for this, as you can see, instead of scene root find, I use audio get audio playback controller. So in order to get reference to the playback controller, I have to use the audio library and this function, get playback controller, and give it the name of the playback controller. In this case, is AP blip. We go here, AP blip, this one, you see, AP blip. And this allows us to control the playback functionality. It exposes, this library exposes different type of functionality that allows us to set, to stop the sound, play it, reset it, so it starts from the beginning, etc. And the reason, now there's a reason why I chose, I didn't use for shuffle, I didn't use AP shuffle. You can see here there's AP shuffle. So why for this one I use SP shuffle, and for AP blip I use the audio playback controller. So there's a reason for this. The reason is that in my code, what I'm going to do for this specific one, blip, I'm going to tell Spark AI to play it or stop it or reset it. So I need the audio functionality. For SP shuffle, as you can see here, SP shuffle, let's go to AP shuffle. SP shuffle plays the audio which is constantly playing. So I actually don't need any functionality from the audio library to play it or stop it or reset the sound, because it's playing all the time. I already set it here. And it's assigned to the speaker. The only thing is that I'm going to control is, for SP shuffle, the volume. The only thing that I want to control is the volume. That's why I didn't use AP shuffle. I used the speaker shuffle. I created a reference to the speaker object of the shuffle, that one that plays the shuffle audio, right? So this one, SP, we just need to control the volume. And here we need to control the playback. So for this we use the audio playback controller, audio get playback controller. And for this one we just imported the speaker. We need a speaker because we just want to change the volume. If we just want to change the volume, we don't need to use the playback controller. All right. Now in this line, you can see SP shuffle dot volume. Now SP shuffle, because it has a reference to the object of the speaker, it allows us to access different properties. One of them is it's called volume, which allows me to control the volume. The volume is the volume between 0.0 to 1.0. All right, so again, as I mentioned, we can choose the volume from 0.0 to 1.0. 1 means 100, so you need to just duplicate it by 100 and you can know what's the volume. So it's 0 is 0. If it's 1, it's like 100% volume. All right? So the reason I put 0 here is, as I told you, the speaker automatically plays the shuffle sound, and this is the sound shuffle. Now it's going to play just once, but it's going to repeat itself. Repeat and automatically played by default all the time. But because I don't want it to be played from the start, I need to set it to 0. Now what happens if you start the project, you can see that you can hear the sound, right? Look what happens when I remove this line and save the project. Control S, I'm saving it. Now it's already playing, it's playing all the time. But nothing is shuffled, so I don't need this one. Let me reduce the... Okay, enough of this sound. I think I need to reduce it. So I actually set it to 0. Now it won't start from when the project starts. All right. Now, here I actually create a variable. When you use var, which means variable, I can actually change the values for the variables I'm creating. So constant, I can change it in the code after I initialize it. How do you initialize it? Using this equals sign, we can initialize a value. So here I'm telling the value equals 0. All right. Just keep in mind here that although SP shuffle is constant, I can change the value of SP shuffle. I can still change the properties of this object, but I can't change the value of the SP shuffle variable itself because it's constant. All right. But here I can actually change it, the value of this variable anytime I want it during the code. That's what it's called, variable. All right, so why status? I created a variable called status because I have different statuses. One, when the game is not started. One, when after the user clicks the screen to start rolling a number. Second, when it's in the process of stopping it. 1, 2, and showing the last one. And 3, when the game ends. So there are several status. I'm going to just use number, but 0 means no started, 1 ongoing, 2 stop randomizer, 3 means end of game, end of play. All right. Here I'm going to create a variable that's going to store a reference to an interval. What's an interval? I'm going to explain in a moment. But I'm going to create a variable here at the top because I want my variables global variables. Global variables means that if you declare variables at the top, outside of any function, they're going to be accessible in the entire script. All right. All right. Let's go on. Instruction bind true. Okay. So what it is? Instruction. As you can see here, I'm using a reference to this library called instruction with expose some functionality, allowed us to create this thing. Those notes, here it appears at the bottom, but when you use it on your device, it's going to appear in the middle, like tap to continue, all the stuff, tap to play again, and there are many variations. This is called custom instructions. Now, I can't just use custom instruction. I first need to go to project, edit properties, capabilities, and you can see instruction here. And here, you're going to have, by default, you're going to have these automatic instructions. You're going to let Spark AI decide which instruction to use. But I chose custom instruction. You just tap this checkbox. And then I click the plus button to add different type of instructions. As you can see, that if you tap the plus button, there are quite a few of them, like tap to try on, raise your eyebrows. You can tell the user, and this is automatically, I think, is translated to different languages. I'm not sure, but I think so. So you have different one. You can use open your mouth, tap your eyes, tap your eyes. I see this for the first time actually. All right, so I inputted only tap to play again and tap to continue. Now token is kind of a string, a set of characters which is used in order to identify which one you're going to use. You're not going to identify it by the text, but just want to identify it using this token set of characters. This is why when you use this one, Spark AI can translate it to other languages. So we actually only need to remember this one, those tokens. Right, we click done. Let's go back. So we use custom instructions. We override the default ones. And instruction bind, we're going to now create an instruction, on-screen instruction. True means display it. And here we're going to put the token. So by default, I want this to appear. Look, tap to continue. You see here? That's what I want. So I say instruction bind true to show which one. Tap to advance. Tap to advance will show tap to continue in English here. See? Nice. Next, I think it depends on the language, you'll be translated. So if I use an English device, I'm going to see tap to continue. But I think if the Instagram is set to another language, it might be visible in a different language. I didn't test it, but I think it worked like that. All right. Next thing. Now, before we continue on, this is important. This part is important because it's actually when we we're going to use the functionality of tapping on the screen. So tapping the screen, as you can see here, when I tap the screen, I use it several times. This screen tap functionality to start, see, to stop, and to play again. All right. So to do this, we need to do two things. The first thing we need to do is in actually the patch editor. And you go to the patch editor by clicking view, show hide patch editor if it's not visible already. But this is simple here. All we need to do is add a screen tap patch. How we do this? Right click, type tap, and you're going to see screen tap option. This is object tab, but we need screen tab because we need to create something that responds to an event when the user taps the screen. You see, capture a tap anywhere on the screen. So we're going to click add patch. I already did it, so we have a screen patch. Now you see this is connected to something. Now I'm going to show you what this something is. So what I actually want in general, I want when the user taps the screen, I want to capture this tap in the script because I want to continue to do things in the script. So I want something related to the patcher to tell the script, hey, somebody actually just tapped the screen, so I want you to know about this, to capture this event. So to do this, we need to do something like that. We need to, you see the script? You need to tap on the script object. Now look at the sidebar. You tap this one. We have some options here. I'm going to just remove this one so you can see it. I'm going to create it now. So you have the screen tab. What I want to do, we have two options, from script to a script. And this is actually self-explanatory. To script means that I want to share something with the script, and from script this means that I want the patch editor to get something from the script. Now because in this case I want the patch editor to send something to the script, I'm using toScript option. And I then click the plus button. And what I need to do is, because I'm creating an event, I need something called pulse. Because once something happened, in this case a screen tap, I want to create an event, which is the pulse, and send it to the script. I can also share other things like numbers, boolean, true or false, text, vectors, etc. So I'm going to use pulse. And this pulse will trigger each time the user taps the screen. Now I'm going to give it a name. I just called it pulse screen tap. That's why I called it. I can call it anything I want. Press enter, and then tap this arrow. If we tap it, it's going to be added into the patch editor. It's still not connected, so I need to connect it. So what I need to do, there are two arrows here. This one actually outputs for each tap. Yeah, when the user taps, it will output the 2D position on the screen when the user taps. This one is sending a pulse each tap. I actually want this one. I don't care where the user taps. As long as the user taps the screen, it's okay by me. I just need to know about this event. So I click this one, drag it, and connect it to pulse screen tap. All right? Okay, you can save it from time to time using Control S. Make sure the project is saved. And then let's go back to the script. So this is it. This is the patch editor. There's nothing else in the patch editor. Just this one. All right? Just this one. Let me enlarge it a bit. Now, in the patch editor, sorry, in the script file, let's go over this line. I have patches. Patches, where these patches came from? From here. There's a reference to a library called patches which expose different functionality. And because we are dealing now with the patch editor, I need to use patches. That's why I need this line. So, patches, one option that I have is get pulse value. This allows me to get the value from the patch editor. Which one? The one that I already named, pulse screen tap. So this will give me access to this one. Now, subscribe means that I'm going to subscribe to events that will be triggered, so in the patch editor. So when I subscribe this, in the each time an event is actually binding an event. Each time an event takes place, the event of tapping on the screen, do something. And this is actually a function. I'm going to tell it, run this function. And inside, we're going to have a function that does something. I'm going to explain it here very, very soon. Let me just delete everything here. So this is the function, opening brackets, closing brackets. So everything on here is inside the function. I'm going to do something. So I'm going to subscribe to events of screen tap, and each time something happens, I'm going to do something here. All right. So now we're going to go over the function that runs each time the user taps the screen. So we're going to do something. All right. Let's ignore this one for a second. I'm going to explain a bit later. And when the user taps the screen, the first thing I want to do is I'm hiding any of the instruction that can actually be visible, because as you can see here, when I tap, this is an instruction here. When I tap, I want it to disappear. There can be two options. One is tap to continue, and the other one is tap to play again. So I'm hiding. How I hide it? I use instruction bind instead of true here, which say display it, show it. I'm putting false. So this accepts a Boolean value, which either true or false. So putting false to this token and putting false to the second token means that none of them will be displayed if they are displayed. All right. All right. So now I have something called conditional statement, and I'm actually doing several things based on the status. Remember what the status was? Depends on whether the game is started, it's currently ongoing, it's already in the process of stopping it and deciding one single random image, and when it ends. So that's why the value is status equals 2, status equals 1. So if status equals, and by the way, equals in JavaScript, you can do this or 3. This doesn't set, it's not setting status. It doesn't mean if I put status equals 0, this means that I'm assigning 0 to the variable. But when I'm doing this one, I'm actually asking if this one equals 0. So this is actually a question. This is not an assignment. This can return either true or false, this expression. And I can do it with 1 or 2, but usually we do it with 2 or 3 equal marks. All right, so here what I'm actually doing is asking if this is true or false. If status equals 0, what 0 means? That we haven't started, the game haven't started yet. So this is actually the status here. This is 0. We are now at 0 because nothing starts yet. Nothing started yet. And if this is the case, I want to start the randomizer. So starting the game, start shuffling things, right? The images. So what I'm doing here, now opening brackets, and now everything inside those opening and ending brackets here will be executed. All right, so this one, you see SP shuffle, volume equals 1. Remember what this means? This means that we're going to set the shuffling volume to 1, to the highest volume, 100 actually, because this is from 0, remember, it's 0 to 1. By default, when you start the project, it's actually 0, but we're going to set it to 1, highest volume. I can also set it something 0.6. You want to see the difference? Let me show you. Let's put it to 1. Let's play it. Here, this is 1. Let's change it to 0.1. If you can hear it. Play it. You see? Lower voice. All right? Stop it. So I'm going to set it to, let's say, 0.8, 80%. All right. Here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the time functionality that I've referenced from this library called time to create an interval. Now, if you don't know the word in English, what this means basically is that I'm going to create some behavior that will run every X amount of milliseconds. So when I say time set interval, inside I'm going to create a function that will run every X amount of milliseconds that are defined after the comma. Oops, after the comma. So here I'm actually running something every tenth of a second, every 100 milliseconds. So if I want something to run each second, I just put 1000. If I want something to run each 5 seconds, 5000. All right? So this will run every tenth of a second, every 100 milliseconds. All right. So what you see here, we're going to run 10 times each second, basically. And what we're going to run, this one I'm going to explain to you in a moment, all right? So we're going to run set random image, a function. And you probably don't know what this means because this is just a function, but it's a function that I've created. And it's available. Let's go here below, set random image. I can actually go there. If you use Visual Studio Code, you can actually press Control and then tap this one, and it will bring you to the code. Now, functions I create below, I create in the code, but needs to be, in the root of the document. So, set random image. This is a function that I've created. Now, everything you see here, I can actually take this code and actually put it here. You see, set random image. Instead of set random image, I can put just my code here. But why just a second, but why I don't want it here, because I'm calling it several times in the project, and I just want it to be very clear. So I just put it inside a function, give it a short name, and put the functionality, the long functionality script down. Long, it's not that long, but let's put it just here. It makes the code more readable when I just go over it up there. So what this function does is, like the name suggests, I just call it set random image, and you see generate a random number and assign a texture based on that number. So let's see what I did here. What we're doing in general, we are creating a random number. We're getting a random number between 1 and 3. Why 1 and 3? Because we only have 3 images. If I had like 5 images, I would use from 1 to 5. If I have 10 images, it was 1 from 10. This includes the 1 and the 10. I have a function I'm going to talk about in a second. All right? But as you can see, we have textures 1, 2, and 3. Right? That's why I use just 1 and 3. Now, so var, I'm just creating a variable. This will hold a number. I just called it random number. I can call it anything I want. But I usually use very good descriptive names so I can understand what it does when I just go over the script. So I called it random number, and I use a function called random between 1 and 3. Now this is a function that I got from a site called Stack Overflow, but I could have created myself. I could use another type of function that does this functionality. But this is this function. All right. What it does, you don't need to know about this. It's just a function that returns a number between a minimum number and a maximum number. That's all. Forget about what it does right now. It doesn't really matter. You should know that this function, because now I use it, and I could of course use it here. Yeah, I could copy the code here and use it here, but it's very clear when you read this code. Random number, use a function that returns a number from 1 to 3. So this is a function that accepts 2 parameters. The first one is a minimum number, and the last one is a maximum number. So this is a function that I actually brought into my project, and I use it. All right. And so this one will return a number from 1, including 2, 3 included. So we're going to store the number here in this variable called random number, because there's a quality sign. 1 means assign the value that you get from this function into this variable. So when this line is executed, this one will hold the number in it, and then you can use it. This one diagnostic, I'm going to explain a bit later. So we're just going to comment this out. We're going to execute it. Everything you want to comment to those two lines will comment this line. It will not be executed. We comment this out because it's like a comment. If you don't want to execute a certain line, you can do this. All right. Now we have this thing called Met Randomizer. Now Met Randomizer, you know where it's from. Let's go up. This one, remember the constant that we just created called material that equals materials get Met Randomizer. This is a reference to our randomizer material. This one. You see this one, Met Randomizer. This is our material. That's how we access the material in code. We created a reference for it, and then we have some things that we can do with it. So this one, I created a variable, global variable for it, and then I can use it anywhere inside the code. So it's available for me here, and I'm accessing it here. All right. Oh, sorry. Not here, right? Set random image here. So what I do when I use randomizer, I have a property called diffuse. Diffuse allows me access to material randomizer. Diffuse, you see here? Diffuse. And what I can do, I can actually assign a texture to this material using code. That's a really cool thing. I can change this texture. Right now it's just holding remember? It holds the which animal image. I can see changes in code. Whenever I want, I can change it. So if I change it, something else will appear, and I'll decide when. So Met Randomizer, diffuse equals, now I'm going to add the texture. When it gets a texture, it will change the texture of this material. So to do this, I use a texture, this one, texture object, you see here. Texture requires, so this also exposes functionality, texture. Get means it's a function that allows us to get a reference to a texture image. And we need to tell it which image. So it expects to have a name, a string, a text. Which text we can give it? Well, any of those. So this is actually a text that is 2. If I tell it grab 2, it will grab this one. 1, grab this one. 3, get 1. If I tell the code to get which, it will get this one. Because I named this. I call it with this text. This is the name. And a string is a set of characters. So I can call this one, for example, 2 something. Right? So this is a text, but I just call it 2. It's not a number. It's a number, but it's not. It's still a text, which I use in order to name any of those textures. All right. So now I get a number from 1 to 3, and that's why I use numbers there, because I use now the number that I generated from 1 to 3 and put it here. I tell it, get texture, which number? A random number from 1 to 3. Any of those textures, either 1, either 2, or either 3, in random. All right, so I can get any of those. Now, it actually needs to get a string text, not a number. So this one actually was a number. When I say random number, this one returned a number, but I need it as a text. This is why I added these 2 double brackets, because double brackets is actually means a string, and if you combine it using the plus button with a number, you get a number that is represented as a string, not an actual number, numerical value. All right. So that's why I use this one. So if I delete this, for example, just a random number, I'm going to run this. I'm going to explain in the console in a moment, just a second, what it does. I'm going to run this script and tap the screen. Look, I'm getting, you see I'm getting this, let's stop it for a second. I'm getting an expected string. And this means because I can't give textures get just a number. It needs a string. So I just put plus, and now it's actually a string. So actually, instead, I'm going to put it here. So instead of 2, value 2, which is numerical value, I'm going to have this one, 2, which means a string set of characters. So again, those are 2 data types, and this texture.get accepts a data type of a string and not an integer or decimal or float number, just a string set of characters. All right, that's why I did this. All right, so this is set random image. So we go up in the code here. So again, this is when you start, when user taps the first time. There's an interval. This runs every 10 seconds every second. Yes. So what it does is creates assigns a different random image each 100 milliseconds. Each time you're going to run this one because it's an interval. This function runs each time, each 100 milliseconds. So this one will run 10 times each second. Now the reason I use run the interval 1 here, I just named it like this, and because I want to store a reference to this interval, because I want to stop it at some time. I'm going to show you later when I stop it, but in order to stop it, I need to have to have something that have a reference to it, so I can say, remember that interval, I want to do something with it. So that interval, which actually will be stored here in rand interval 1. I need to store it in a variable here, because here, and it's global variable, it's available through the script in order to access it later on. All right, let's continue. So this will continue running. When this function runs, this will run 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 times each second, continue running. It won't stop. It will never stop unless I tells it to stop. So this one will never stop running. It will run all the time. That's why you get this one, this behavior. You see? I'm not typing anything. It won't stop. It will continue running like this. You see, the images are changing. The images are changing because of this set random image function that we did. 10 times a second, this one changes. I want to show you something. If we change this to 2 seconds, look, and run it. Let's run it again. Let's mute the noise because it will be confusing. I'm going to mute the noise for a second and just run it again for you. Now each 2 seconds, look. Now 1, 2, 1, 2. It's the same image. 1, 2, 1, 2. So each 2 seconds the image is changing. Only because I changes this value to a different value. Alright? So you can see how it directly affects what you see in the filter. So again, I'm going to show it to you. This one, this value that tells it to change every 5 seconds. All right. So again, 5 seconds this is 5,000 milliseconds. So it's 5 seconds. I'm going to save this project. And when you save, by the way, it's going to reset the project. So I need to tap again. Now you see every 5 seconds it's going to change the image here. Now wait 5 seconds. It's going to change the image again. It didn't change because it was the same image, but going to have 3. But let's wait again. More 5 seconds. Change it. Now wait for 5 seconds more. If it's not the same image, you're going to see it. You see? 5 seconds. Cool. Oh, all right. But we're gonna keep it at 100, all right? Why I'm 100? Because the sound is very fast. Just listen to the sound. Just listen to the sound. See? So I wanted the images also to be replaced quite fast so it matches the sound. And that's the reason. All right. Now, we have another function called time set timeout. Now, time is also, we use it here. Remember, time set interval. But set timeout is a different, as a different functionality. Set timeout means that I tell it to run a function one time after a number of milliseconds. So when this is called, this function inside, this one will run once after, in this case, 1 second. So when the function, the code goes here, and it goes like this, from here, and then execute this line, it will wait 1 second and then run the code. All right, this one's interval means run every X amount of milliseconds. In this case, 100 milliseconds, forever until I tell it to stop. And I'm not telling it to stop just yet. And this one tells it just run one time after this amount of seconds. So it will wait when this one runs, this line runs, it will wait 1 second and then execute this line. So why I did it here, you can see here I have instruction bind true tap to advance. Why I did this line? Because you see, when the user clicks for the first time, look at this, tap to continue, it disappears and then appears again. You see here? I'm going to make it slower for you so you can see. Let's put it 3 seconds. Let's start it again. So if I tap to continue will disappear. But I want the user to tap again to know that they need to tap again in order to stop. So I say tap to continue. I make a gap. It's disappeared and then it appears again. A notification for the user to, hey, you need to tap again. So that's why I added it with a delay. I could just put it straight without having the same tap to continue without stopping, but I wanted a delay so the user, kind of a feedback, user knows when they tap, because the text disappeared, and then they get it again so they know, hey, I need to click again. That's what I did with 1 second. Now I'm changing the status because we already the user taps the screen, so we get to 1. Setting the status 1. Status 1 means recording an ongoing shuffling. Shuffling, right? So I'm telling the script recording the status as change and recording in a shuffling status. All right. So this is it for the first one. So as you can see, the next line is else if, and else if is actually right after this bracket, this closing curly brackets. This curly brackets is one that closes the first statement, if else statement, first if statement, sorry, first conditional statement. This one runs when the game just starts. Now I say else if. This means that if this condition is not met, this means that status equals 0 is false. It's not true, because only if this is true, this thing inside the curly brackets will get executed. So again, what I say, so if this condition inside the brackets isn't met, so status equals something else, this won't be executed. So it will move to the second if statement, else. So if this one is not true, else try this one. Maybe this one is true. So we are evaluating another if statement. Else means this is connected to the first if, because if this one is not, if this one is true, this one won't get executed. This else, the if after the else won't get executed because this one is already true. But if this one is false, it will check the condition, the second condition, which is else if status equals 1. Status equals 1 means, what does it mean? Let me just copy it from here to here. All right, status equal 1. 1 means ongoing, and right now it might be ongoing. So if this one is status equals 1, we're gonna check, and the user taps again. The second time, the status will be equal 1 because this one already happened. Remember, these patches, because we subscribed, each time user taps the screen, this function, entire thing inside will happen. So the first time it checks and it's going to execute this here. Nice. Then it's going to do something, and then the second time user taps the screen to stop the shuffling, this one will be, status will be equal 1, so it will run this one, not this one. So what we have here, so second tap means to stop the shuffling. So the first thing we are doing is saying SP shuffle volume equals 0. Why? Because we don't want the sound of the shuffling to be anymore, because it just stops the shuffling. So we set it to 0. 0, mute, no sound. All right, 0% volume. That's what this means. And now, remember the interval that we created that shuffles. I'm going to show it to you again. This interval that sets random images all the time, changes the images every 10 times a second. We need to tell it to stop, because user just tap to stop. So we need to stop this one from happening. That's why we create rand interval 1. And now here, I'm going to use this rand interval. I'm going to use the time library and use the function called clear interval. And this function accepts a reference to an interval. Which interval? I'm going to send it this one that I assigned it here. And when I say clear interval, this means that this one that goes forever until I tell it to stop will stop, won't be executed anymore. So this function won't be called anymore because I just told it time clear interval. I said stop this from repeating forever. That's what I said. Stop it. I don't want to repeat this interval anymore. Clear interval. So this thing that changes the images repeatedly 10 times a second will no longer run. You just stop. I'm going to show it to you right now. Just going to put a return value so none of the things that goes after will execute. I'm just going to show you how this works in practice in the filter. I'm just tapping. This goes forever. Remember, this is the interval. Replace image, change image every 10 times a second. Second tap stops. You see why it stopped? Why it's not changing the images anymore? Because of this line. Time clear clear interval. I told you just to stop. You can see it clearly in the filter. It just stops. Nice. So this stops the interval from repeating itself forever. Now we're changing the status to 2, and status 2 means that the user asks for stopping the randomizer. So I know that if this is status 2, this means that the user taps to stop the randomizer. Now, when you stop the randomizer, tap to advance, remember the tap to continue one, we want to hide it. We don't need it because the user already tapped the, I'm going to show you again how this works in the filter. Return, just return. So we have this tap to continue. You see this one? And to make it disappear, once I tap the screen, now disappear. You see? It's gone. Why it's gone? Because of this line. Instruction bind false, hide it, which token? Tap to advance. And this tap to advance is actually the tap to continue. Right? So I give it this token, false, and it's going to hide it. Now I use blip. What is a blip? All right, blip is a function that I created because I use it several times. You see one here, one here, one here. I just created a function that holds the code. We're going to see what blip is. Probably you guess it's just to a blip sound. You see blip. What blip does, it uses the audio playback. You see audio playback? Remember audio playback? If not, let me show it to you. Audio playback is this one. Remember audio get playback? And why we use get audio playback, remember? Because we need to control the playback. And that's exactly what we're going to do in the blip function. You see blip? Now we have option here, reset. What is reset? Reset means that if I'm playing the sound, there's kind of a marker that moves over the soundtrack. So it starts from the beginning and then it moves until the end. So if I play a sound and it's over, this marker will be at the end. So if I said playing, it won't play the sound. We need to move this marker to the beginning of the sound of the sound file, and then when I said playing, it will play from the beginning. So every time before I play a sound and I want the sound to play from the beginning, I'm using reset. And then I tell it and then I tell it start playing. How do you tell it start playing? Dot set playing and give it a value, boolean value of true. And this means play. If I say false, this means stop. In the previous API, you have something like a blip dot play and a p blip dot stop blip dot stop. But in a new API, they change it, and now instead of this one, you have set playing true or false. True playing, false stop. But we want it to play, so we say true. Now we don't need to give it stop. Why? Because it's play only once. Remember, it's not in a loop. Sorry. It's not playing by default and it's not in loop, so it's only gonna play once. Right? So that's blip, very simple. So we're going back here. So I play blip once because the user taps, so there's going to be one image that is going to stop. So I'm going to do a first blip sound. I'm going to show it to you. I'm just going to stop here so you can see what this means. Now I'm going to stop and hear the blip. See? Just for this image, I made a blip. That's it. Alright, so now I get 3 timeouts. Now there's different things to implement this. I just wanted to show you the timeout so we can better understand this one. So what I did here, I created 3 timeouts. And if you remember what timeout is, this is tells the script run something, a function, after X amount of milliseconds of waiting. So when this line is executed, it's going to wait, in this case, 1000 milliseconds, which means 1 second. I'm going to write to you 1 milliseconds equals 1 second. So it will run after 1 second when it gets the line, this one line executed. And after 1 second, it's going to change an image again and do a blip sound. You see how easy it is when you use functions? Instead of using what's inside this code, and what's inside this code is going to be like a long line, right? I can just clearly see and read what it does. It's set a random image and do a blip sound. That's why you use functions, because you're going to reuse the code inside those functions. And just imagine this function has like 200 lines of code. I don't want them to be here again, here 200 lines, here 200 lines. I just want the name of the function. That's how functions are useful when you reuse the code in numerous areas in your script. And it's very readable. So you can clearly understand what this one does. It will change the image and do a blip sound after 1 second. And there's another timeout. By the way, I can create those timeouts. I can move this one, for example, here and create it here. I can move, for example, the second one here inside. So this actually timeout will execute it after this 1 second. I can say after 1 second create another timeout, but this one I want it to be clearer for you, so that I'm creating 3 timeouts. Each one is executed in a different timeout. So the first one will the first one will execute after 1 second, an image will change. The second will execute after 2 seconds. I'm gonna show it to you in a moment visually. And the third one will be executed after 3 seconds. All right, so let's see how it goes. Yeah, I'm stopping now after 1 second. Oh, sorry. Oh, actually it already happened. Sorry. I tap after 1 second, after 2 seconds, after 3 seconds. You see? Now I can do this in a longer interval. For example, the first one, do it after 1 second, the first one after 5 seconds, and the third one after 7 seconds. Let's see what this change does. Let's play it again. Now wait 5 seconds, 7 seconds. Yeah, you see? It took 2 seconds between them because one was 5 seconds, one was 7 seconds. Let's just keep it as before. Now if I'm going to remove the third one, for example, I'm going to just return. So this one won't execute it. Everything now won't execute. Only the 2 of them. Let's see what happens. I tap. 1 second. Third one didn't execute. You see? Only 2. Let's put it back. All right. So this one will blip, show 1 image. This is kind of an ending, like we are shuffling, and then user taps, and then we show 1, kind of, make the user, excited, expecting what to come. So 1, slowly, 2, and 3. And this is 3. This is actually the chosen one. This is the one that the character that the user gets. This one, the third one. All right. Nice. After this one, those are executed. Again, I just want you to know, although this will run almost nothing after. Immediately after this second one will run immediately after this one, the code, and this one run immediately after this one. Those will executed with different times because of the timeout. Because this function won't, these lines inside the function won't run immediately, but with delay. This one after 1 second, this one after 2 seconds, this one after 3 seconds. All right. The next line is tap to try play again. Now I did it also in a timeout because after, actually I wanted a bit 4 seconds. So now after 4 seconds, so after this one, a second after this one, I want to show the user the instruction of tap to play again. I'm changing the status here to 3 after this one is done. So instruction bind, show, tap to reply. Tap to reply in the English result will be tap to play again. This is just the token, tap to reply. It will be tap to play again. The English translation that will appear in the instruction, the text will be tap to play again. And we're changing the status to 3. Status 3 means end of play. Status 3 means end of play. All right. This is a comment, yeah, so everything after it is a comment. End of play. So let's see it, how it inside the filter visually. We tap, we stop, now we 1, 2, 3, now second after, tap to play again. You see? Again. First blip, 1, 2, 3, show, tap to play again. It was the same image, by the way. The image changed, but because it was the same image, it doesn't appear. Let's try again. You see? Tap to play again. All right. So this one, the code does. Now, after we finish this, we have another conditional statement else. So if those two, this one is not met, this condition is not met, equals false. This one equals false, but this one equals 3. Remember what is 3? The game is already ended. So if the user taps, the screen and status equals 3, game ended. In this is the game ended, but user taps. What we're going to do, we're going to reset the game. How are we going to reset it? We're going to change the image of the material to which texture.get. This is not a number, so it's just a text, so I don't need to do something like plus this one, because it's already, you see, it's a string set of characters with double quotations. And which is this one? Remember this one? Which? This is the name of the texture. It shows which animal. All right? So get this texture which and put it inside the texture for this diffuse material. So the diffuse for this material randomizer, and show. We're going to reset it, so we're going to show tap to continue again. Instruction tap to continue. It displays it because it's true here, and we set the status to 0 because this is the way we started. Remember, we started with status equals 0. So we're resetting everything, so we can play again. So let's see this code in practice. All right, let's run it. We are tapping 1, 2, 3. I'm going to see the text. All right, but now if we tap, remember now it's status equal to 3 because it's already ended. I'm going to show it to you in a second so you can clearly see it. Reset. Show which animal. Remember this one, which is this one. This one. This tap to continue is this one. It shows it. Tap to continue. And status equals 0. I want to show you. So I want to see how it looks. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play it again. I tap first one. Status changes to 1. All right. I tap again. Status equals 2 now. And now it ends and status equals 3. This one, by the way, I don't know where I put it. Yeah, I can remove it. Oh, double. So this was just to show you how the status value changes. So it's just pretty. I just tap, the status equals 1. I tap again, it equals 2. It ends, status equals 3. You see? This is the end. Right? So if I tap again, it will equal 0 because we are just starting out. See? Tap again, status equal 1. Tap, status 2. Ended, status equal 3. Tap again, reset, status equal 0. All right, so that's what I want to show you. That's why I use the diagnostics. The only thing that this line does is just display it in the console, so you can just keep up just display something. In this case, I just wanted to follow the value to know the value of the status here. So I just displayed it textually in the console. Just printed it in the console. So that's it. I actually don't need those lines. I can just remove them, but it was just temporarily to show it to you. Again, just for diagnostics. And if I actually don't use it, I can actually remove this one. I'm keeping it anyway. All right. Whew. So let's see if there's something else that I'm missing. Let me see. No, I think we covered everything, right? Yeah, we covered everything. Anything in the code? No, this is everything. Yeah. So it's a bit long, and I know there are many things here and some things might be confusing, but I'm here to answer your questions, so you can ask me everything that you want to know and I'll give you answers. And this is kind of the basic that I use in several of my filters, which character filters that I made. This kind of was the basic thing that I use, maybe slightly bit different, but that's the idea. All right, so let me just play again so you can see how this plays. I tap, some running images. This can run forever, remember, unless I tell the interval to stop, clear interval, and these are displayed using instruction bind, true or false, true show, false hide. These are timers with one timer, second timer, third timer. This is the last one. And I can tap again. Now status will equal 0. We can start again. I change the material back to which here instead of any one of those that we ran inside the interval to display the images. Yeah, and that's about it. All right, I'm going to stop here. I hope you got everything kind of set. If not, please watch the video again, go over the script so you can see it again. I tried to make it quite simple with some instructions, some text that explain about things, explanations. But again, you can see, let's go over quickly again. Declarations of the libraries, importing the libraries that you want to use in our script. Export is just because I want to use it in the console, so I use this one. The variables that I created to store different references and values. Setting properties for different objects. The status that I change in order to decide which functionality to use during the execution of the code. The interval, variable that stored the interval to for the one that repeats and put a random image each time, so we be able to stop it in the code later on. So we save the reference to the variable. Instruction, we initialize it the first time, and then the pulse, remember the pulse, we get a pulse, we subscribe, so each time the event is executed, we're going to get notified, and we can run a certain function in the code for each tab, and there's the code that runs inside, depends on the status. This is the value of the variable that's stored in the variable called the status. If it's 0, do this. If it's 1, do this. And it's 3, just reset it, and we're going to start from the beginning. Functions that I use: bleep to make the bleep sound, pop, pop. Set random image to set a random image, get a random number. If you have 5 images, we're going to use here 5. You have 10 images with numbers, use this one. And the reason that I use numbers is because I can use it easily here. If I had, and it's something that I actually wanted to talk about, if I had, for example, this one called cat, dog, and I don't know. Let's just change this: cat, dog, and snake. All right, like snake. Let it be snake. Cat, dog, and snake. And I try to run this one. I can't just say 1, take texture 1, because there's no texture 1, 2, 3 anymore. I need to create something like this. Switch, something like this. Switch. You already know if, so we're going to use if. If random number equals 1 met randomizer diffuse cat, something like that. Yeah, we actually don't need curly braces for one line. Like just something like this. We're gonna do it quickly. Else if mistake, dog and elf snake. Sorry, if 1, if this equals 2, if this is 2, this one is snake. I'm going to just format it for a second. So I need to do something like this, and this one that doesn't matter. So if I get number 1, use the cat, because I need a name, because I called it cat. If it's number 2, get number 2, show textual name dog. If it's number 3, show snake. So to prevent myself from actually using names, because I actually don't need it for any it's just inside the filter. It's not like I need search engine optimization, anything, and use keywords, right? But sometimes people use names if you have there are many of them, and it's important to know what the image is. Use it. Sometimes you do, and I'm just going to explain it. So I actually use numbers to prevent myself from doing long if I have many images. So I just use this one. But if you have images, you see this one I called which, right? Because I know to know what this one means. So I give it a meaningful name. And if you have other texture that you don't just call them 1, 2, 3, right? But for this particular filter, it doesn't matter, because I'm just going to use, like, for example, like 20 animals. I don't care to know what the image is. I just want to know the numbers, and I can quickly create, because if I have 20 of them, I can just put 20 here. That's it. I don't need to create 20 if else conditional statement here. If it is 1, it's cat. It's just change to 20, and that's it. That's why I use it. But of course, for some filters, we probably want to use, some filters you're going to use names with meaningful names if it's important for you. And in some cases you need, but in this particular filter, it doesn't really matter. Just going to run over the animals, get one in random, and that's it. All right, so this is one I use, 1, 2, and 3, right? I can also just call this one 1, and this one 3, and this one 2. It doesn't matter because I choose them randomly, right? So the ship can be 1, and this one can be 2, and this one can be that. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that the code will be readable and short, and this is why I use numbers. All right, so this is it. I know it's quite a lot for some of you, but I'm here to help and answer any of your questions. So if you need help in things regarding this one, you have questions, remarks, please ask me in the comment section of this video. And I do my best to answer you as fast as I can, and because I'm working on many other things, but I'll do my best to answer you, answer your comments. So this is it. This is how I created one option of how I created which animal filter using JavaScript and the scripting option in Spark Air Studio. I'm going to finish this video now. I'll leave the questions to you, and more cool things will be introduced in later videos. More things that shows you how I did my filters, and many of you asked me that, so you'll know how I did it. Again, thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye everyone. Bye bye. Don't forget to subscribe.